Good morning. Yanni, I see you're on here. If you could say hello, please.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Charles?
Thank you.
I'm just going to keep moving on. Donato's here in person. Ed Smith?
Good morning, Julie. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Ed, what about you and Melody?
Good morning, Julie. This is Melody.
Good morning. Thank you. Still don't hear Ed. Jordan?
Good morning, Julie. This is Jordan Tidio.
Thank you. Judith and Julia?
I was able to hear Ed, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Hello, this is Judy Coleman. I can barely hear you, Julie.
Okay, and it looks like we're actually live and on the air right now. So let me just check a couple
Recording
other
in
folks.
progress.
Hello, everyone. While we're getting folks logged in and get things started, I just wanted to let you know you've joined the quarterly Everglades Technical Oversight Committee meeting, and we had a few technical difficulties. So we're just getting everybody into the room, so to speak, in Zoom, and we will officially start the meeting in just a moment. Ed, do you want to say hello real quick, just so we know you can mute and unmute?
Hey, Julie. This is Ed Smith.
Great, thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started with our meeting. A few minutes late, and I know some of you got to listen to some mic checks here. So you're probably going to hear the same person introduce themselves twice, but please bear with us as we go through that. There are a couple of folks who are logged into Zoom as panelists, and we did not get to do a mic check with you yet, so we're going to cross our fingers right now and hope your mic works when you need it. I'm Julie LaRocque with the South Florida Water Management District, and again, delighted to have you guys here. We have a little bit of opening business we need to go through, so please bear with us as we do that. And again, we're really happy that folks are tuning in on Zoom. And of course, these meetings are open to the public, and if you should wish to attend in person, you certainly can do that. I don't see necessarily anyone in the audience here, but if we have someone physically in the audience who wants to make a public comment, we're asking that you'll fill out a little sheet that's back by the auditorium entrance. Other folks are going to raise their hands and I'll call on you and all of that good stuff. So I'd like to go around the room and around the Zoom under the panelist list and have the reps and Mr. Barquette introduce themselves. And why don't I start by introducing a new person. Melissa Juntinen is the alternate representative for the refuge. So she's here today over on my left. So glad you're here, Melissa.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We have a very busy week in South Florida this week, good, bad, or indifferent. So we're just part of making things busier over here. Donato?
Good morning, Donato Sorrell, Everglades National Park, and I do need to mention we did have Rolf Olson representing the Fish and Wildlife Service or the Refuge for the consent decree, and he has the luxury of having retired, so this is why we have the wonderful Melissa here today, and she, as Julie pointed out, she is a substitute, and so next time around we will have Rebecca Gibble. Thanks.
And did you also want to introduce your folks that you have on Zoom?
Okay, so we got Bob Johnson, Bill Walker, I see. I know Chris Decker is here with us from EPA, and I see my lawyer, Judith Coleman. I don't know who else. Do we have anybody else? Okay, thanks.
And we were able to do mic
Laura?
checks with some of you. Yes.
This is the stenographer. I'm having a very difficult time hearing Mr. Donato.
I'm the one that gets too close to the microphone. Maybe he's the one that doesn't. I'm sorry, what is your name again, Rachel?
Yes, that's me. I'm the stenographer.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do you want me to repeat anything?
No, sir, I heard it, but it was just very low, so I just wanted to make sure I let you know before we go forward.
I appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you very much. Let's go with DEP. If those of you at DEP could please just say hello and introduce yourselves, that would be great. Thank you.
Good morning, Julie. This is Ed Smith, DEP's TOC representative. Also from DEP, we have Kenny Heyman, our general counsel, Jordan Tidio, Mylene Sotolongo Lopez, and also we have Charles DeMonico, our outside counsel.
Great, thank you. Did we already? I don't think we introduced everybody to the whole big group here, so we'll go ahead and do that. I've got some folks from the district who are here in the audience: Jody Hutchins, Chelsea Q, Stuart Van Horn, Violetta in the back, who keeps us going, as well as Kim Richer, who's taking notes for us today. So I do want to make sure you guys know that they are here. We've got some other folks on the phone. How about Department of Justice? Do you want to say hello, please?
Yes, good morning. This is Judy Coleman from the Department of Justice.
Thank you. And officially, Mr. Barquette, I guess you need to say hello again if you don't mind.
Good morning. This is John Barquette, a special master appointed by the court.
Thank you.
And Julie, I can introduce the Corps of Engineers folks if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. And then we have a couple of folks we'll introduce when you're done. Thank you.
Yep, good morning. This is Dan Crawford, the TSC representative for the Jacksonville District of the Army Corps of Engineers. With me in my office, I've got Brooks Moore from Jacksonville's Office of Counsel. We also have Mark Schaefer on from our Planning Environmental Water Quality team. And we have two attorneys from our USACE headquarters office, Johanna Anderson and Patty Boxalt on the call as well. Over.
Great, thank you. And probably not least, but certainly, well, I think Donato, you had a couple other folks.
I just had one more. My supervisor, Melody Naja, and the director of South Florida Natural Resources Center is also on the line with us. That you pointed out Bob Johnson earlier. Bob Johnson is with us as well.
Okay. Also from the district on the line, we have our current counsel, Julia Lamonaco. If you could, introduce yourself, and I think you had a little bit of an announcement you wanted to make, Julia.
Hi, Julie. Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is Julia Lamonaco with the South Florida Water Management District Office of Counsel. I wanted to let you all know that my time with the district is coming to an end. So my last day with the South Florida Water Management District is going to be at the end of this month. And a new counsel will be taking over as the TOC counsel. That's going to be Yenny Herrera and also our general counsel, Mary Cruz Fincher. So it's been an absolute pleasure representing the district on this particular matter and working closely with Judith Coleman at DOJ and Kenny Heyman and Chuck at DEP. This has really truly been an absolutely fantastic part of my legal career, and I really want to thank the TOC for all the work that they do to help the Everglades water quality and protect the ecosystem. This work is extremely important, and I look forward to seeing where it goes after my departure, and I will truly miss it.
Thank you, Julia. Jenny, I don't know if you just want to say hello again.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm looking forward to working with you all, and thank you for your patience in the months to come.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. I think we've got most of the introductions covered. If I'm missing someone, you can get up and shout or raise your hand or something. In the meantime, if you have called in on the phone or on your computer, please do mute yourself when you're not speaking so that we can avoid feedback, especially since we now know we had sound issues this morning. If you are on your phone again, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom. You can, if you're using a phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. And then you can unmute or mute by using *6 on your phone. We will take public comment before we vote. We have a couple of items where we thought we might want to vote, so those are on the agenda. Also, we've asked that during the meeting while the reps are discussing something, the other panelists should raise your hand if possible so that your rep can make their initial comments, and then either I will call on you or your rep will call on you, and your rep can call on you at any time. We will take comments for anything else at the end of the meeting, and we do welcome public comments. Let's see here. Written comments, we will only take if they're provided in person, and we do have someone in the audience who may wish to do that. And then normally, depending on the comments, we're not typically going to engage with public comments. All right. I did visit the website, but given the technical difficulties we're having, I'm not actually looking at it like I usually do. But if you go to our website, you should be able to see under the read aheads, we've got draft meeting notes from the March meeting. We have presentations for agenda items 2 and 3. And those are the fourth quarter of calendar year 24, and then the annual compliance results for federal water year 24. We have Chelsea's presentation reiterating the water quality conditions for Shark River Slough. That's posted there. We also have slides for the working group update and our ever-present direction from the principals from 2016. If we choose to vote today, those are also posted out there. In addition, there are data tables. Many of you are used to seeing those. They're out there. We've got the fourth quarter actual settlement agreement report is posted, as well as the revised third quarter. And then we have the data tables out there for the various areas. And last but not least, we have the quarterly quality assessment reports for the fourth calendar quarter of 2024. And there's an extra table with the final Shark River Slough total phosphorus tracking report. So those things are all on the website, sfwmd/TOC, for you guys to look at and kind of follow along with us today. Okay. Anybody have any changes or adjustments to the agenda so far? I'm not seeing or hearing any, and I don't have any hands raised. Great. So we shall launch into Chelsea. We're going to the Chelsea Q show again. Sorry about that. I guess you can relax for another minute, Chelsea. I forgot about the meeting notes. We do have draft meeting notes posted, and we also make an effort to circulate them ahead of time, so everybody has the notes from the March 4th meeting. I don't know if you guys have changes, adjustments, or want to move to approve the notes.
Julie, I have no changes to the notes.
Thank you.
No changes.
Good morning, Julie. This is Ed Smith. I have no changes to the notes. Thank you.
This is Dan Crawford for the core. I'll make it unanimous. No changes as well. So I would make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes. Over.
I second the motion.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody not in favor after you said you didn't have changes? Okay, great. Thank you so much. All right, now we have Chelsea is going to give us the settlement agreement report covering the fourth calendar quarter of 2024.
Good morning, everyone. This is Chelsea Q from the South Florida Water Management District. So this presentation covers our routine quarter reporting for the fourth quarter of 2024, December 2024, ending in December 2024. I also have two more presentations lined up for the next two agenda items. You see many slides look similar, and there's overlap of the time frames. So I'll try to avoid repeating information. So for the refuge, we have the monthly compliance results for individual month of October, November, and December. For Shark River Slough and Taylor Slough and Coastal Basins, we've just reported the annual compliance results in the last meeting. So for the fourth quarter, we returned to the 12-month tracking results again, ending in October, November, and December. That's what you see in the middle and the bottom section on this table. So for various compliance periods, all areas met compliance except for the refuge in October and the Shark River through tracking in ending in each month. So this table just provide the values, numbers used for compliance. So looking down each column, the third column shows the applicable limits for each compliance period. And here you can see Shark River Slough and Taylor Slough Coastal Basins have constant limits, with Shark River Slough at 7.6 parts per billion and Taylor Slough and Coastal Basins at 11 parts per billion. The refuge has a variable limit based on the marsh stage. So in October, marsh stage was very high, and the long-term level was at the minimum of Appendix B range, 7.2 parts per billion. Then the second lowest among these three area water bodies, also the 7.2 parts per billion was also the lowest among these three water bodies. Then the second lowest is the 7.6 parts per billion for Shark River Slough. Then the fourth column shows the observed data for comparison. Then you can see that the observed TP data exceeded the limit for the refuge in October. I said the lowest amount of these areas, and the second lowest limit is 7.6 parts per billion for Shark River Slough. And this slide focuses on the refuge compliance. Here, the top section shows the fourth quarter we're reporting, and the bottom section provides an outlook with preliminary data. So for October 2024, the stage was 17.27 feet. Actually, it's even higher than the Appendix B stage range. The maximum at 17.14, and the long-term limit was 7.2 parts per billion, and geometric and TP concentrations was 7.5 parts per billion, so exceeded the long-term level. So October 2024 had an excursion. Then with the preliminary data of February 2025 also showed another possible excursion. So with these two possible excursions within a 12-month period, the refugee is potentially facing an exceedance. This slide is new and not part of our routine quarter reporting. So we include this due to the potential exceedance in the refuge, and we want to provide a heads up. So on this slide, these yellow and orange shaded background represent the topography in the refuge, and the stage is shown in the purple color at the top. So with these together, you can have a general idea of the water depth at each site. So these green boxes represent the TP concentrations at each compliance site. Then we also include these blue boxes showing the TP levels at the upstream transect sites. The purpose is to show the TP levels reduce sharply from a canal to the marsh sites. You can see the canal site is usually above 20 parts per billion. Then the marsh site along the transect reduce quickly, so usually 8 to 10 parts per billion. Also, the left panel shows the TP in October 2024, and the right panel shows the preliminary data for February 2025. So I want to point out one site that is worth noting is LAX 8 in February 2025. This site has an abnormal high TP concentration of 21 parts per billion, which was much higher than all other sites, even including the nearby sites, which were around 10 parts per billion. So the February 2025 data is still preliminary. Once they're finalized, we'll perform a comprehensive analysis and we'll present the findings in the next meeting. This slide shows the refuge compliance status in the past 3 years. So this red dots toward the right edge shows the October excursion. So this slide has the similar information. So move on to Shark River Slough. The flow weight mean TP concentration of these tracking periods ending each month exceeded the long-term limit, which is fixed at 7.6 parts per billion. And the flow has been high. You can see that higher than 1.2 million acre feet for every tracking month. For historical compliance status, So these blue bars represent the annual fluid and mean TP concentrations, and this red solid line represented the long-term limit for each year for assessment. And as you can see, in the early years, the long-term limit fluctuated. And after the COP implementation in the last 4 years, this long-term limit has been fixed at 7.6 parts per billion. And flowing mean concentration exceeded the long-term limit in the last 4 years as a result. So this slide shows this daily flow discharge into Shark River Slough in the past 3 years. So here for the fourth quarter, you can see the flow peaked in October, then declined through November and December. This slide shows flow discharge to West Shark River Slough via S12A, B, C, D from the top to the bottom. And S12A and B were closed following the COP operation rule, and S12C and D were open and flowing. This slide shows flow discharged into Northeast Shark River Slough east of S333 in the L29 canal. So in this second canal, 95% of flow come from S33 and S33N discharge. This slide shows the same information. So this slide shows the baseline data used to calculate the 12-month tracking flow in mean TP concentrations. So these blue bars represent the biweekly flow into Shark River Slough. These are net flow, excluding S334 discharge. And these sign dots represent the TP concentrations along with this flow. And with these biweekly flow and TP concentrations, we can calculate the 12-month tracking flow in mean TP concentrations ending each month, shown in these blue diamonds. And last blue diamonds represent the ending of December flow in mean TP concentration. And this slide shows the stage, WCA3 stage, Shark River Slough inflow, and TP flow in mean concentration in 3 years, water year 2023, 2024, and 2025. So with the look ahead data, after this solid black line, very solid line, you can see about probably 6-7 months of data in the water year 2025. These are still provisional. And you can see that in water year 2025, on these top solid line, the WCA3 stage decreased rapidly due to less rainfall. And then the TP concentrations shown in these yellow dots increased quickly in response to the receding stage. So move on to Taylor Slough and coastal basins. The flow in mean TP concentration is about 5.2 to 5.3 parts per billion, less than half of the limit, 11 parts per billion. For historical compliance status, you can see that Taylor Slough and Coast Basin never had an exceedance issue because the long-term limit showing in this red line is 11 parts per billion. This slide shows daily flow discharged into Taylor Slough and coastal basins with S18C shown in this yellow shaded area, G737 in the middle, and S332D at the bottom in the purple shaded area. So most of the flow come from S18C and S332D. And this slide separate the flow distribution at each structures. And you can see that in the fourth quarter, all these three structures, S18C, G737, and S332D were flowing, except for S328, which was closed. The slide shows daily flows in and out of S332D flowway. So here the purple shaded area represent the S332D pump flow, which is the upstream source. Then portion of flow moved to north, shown in this red line by S332DX1 structure. Then another portion of flow moved south into Taylor Slough via S328, shown in this near green line. But in the fourth quarter, both S332DX1 and S328 were closed. This slide also shows the underlying data used to calculate the 12-month flow mean concentration. And these blue bars represent the event flow, and the cyan dots represent the TP concentrations along with these flow. Then composite the 12-month data, flow and TP data. That's where you see these blue diamonds representing the 12 months tracking fluid mean TP concentration ending each month. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Before we go to questions, I wonder if Jody could help us out a little bit. Chelsea, could you go back to the slides on the refuge? I just want to make sure we're all clear about what we're doing and why the slides are there, if you don't mind. And Jody, maybe you could help us. Thank you.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. This is Jody Hutchins with the South Florida Water Management District. I just want to provide a little more context for this new slide because this isn't standard for our typical quarterly reporting. As Chelsea mentioned, we have the potential of an exceedance for the refuge, given the preliminary excursion that we're seeing with February 2025 data set. So today is our quarterly reporting through quarter 4. So that includes the October 2024 excursion, which is now deemed as final. Included with our look ahead includes this February 2025 potential excursion. So that potential excursion is still under QA review. So the QA is incomplete. However, if it is deemed complete and that excursion is final, that will be reported as final in our upcoming meeting in September. So that would be the meeting that we would officially report these 2 excursions as an exceedance for the refuge and come back with a more thorough presentation of that exceedance analysis. So this slide is just to give a little more context as to what we're seeing right now with the data. October 2024 being final, we're showing what the concentrations were at the individual compliance sites within the refuge, as well as what were the concentrations coming into the refuge during that same month at our transect stations that represents STA inflows into the STA, so that's shown in the purple. So we just wanted to get an idea of like what's coming into the refuge and how that may or may not be influencing our compliance stations within the refuge. So similarly, we're showing the same thing for February, and we just wanted to point out what we're seeing with the LOX 8 station that Chelsea mentioned and how it's very abnormally high. It's at 21 parts per billion, and we're not seeing a similar magnitude of concentrations at any of the adjacent compliance stations within the refuge. So it just raises a lot of questions as to why that may be. We don't fully understand at this point. We're still digging into the data. And we're going to come to our next meeting with hopefully some more answers for everybody.
Thank you, Jody. Do we have comments or questions on the presentation for either Chelsea or Jody at this point?
Thanks for the additional explanation for slide 4. Can you talk a little bit about what are we supposed to be taking from the elevation addition, the DEM, under the background?
Yeah, so we added that just to give folks an understanding of, you know, how water may flow within the refuge. So you can try to glean, you know, how one station may or may not be influencing another station. For example, without the topography, you know, it's hard to say whether or not a station directly to the left or to the right of another station may flowing towards it or away from it. So we just wanted to kind of give an idea of flow direction.
Thanks.
Other comments or questions for Chelsea?
Hey, this is Ed Smith, DEP. Just for clarification, the stations that have no data, is that due to low water levels?
Is that on the previous slide?
It's on this slide, like LOX 3, it shows no data.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Thank you. Can you, one of you, please confirm?
Yeah, you're correct, Ed. When they're typically, you know, sometimes we have when their stages are very low, water that's isolated. It's they call it a disconnected pool. You know, it's not representative, so we don't collect samples under those conditions.
Okay, thank you. I
And they may
appreciate
not even meet the marsh sampling protocol guidelines for that matter. I noticed on slide 3, and this is kind of why I wondered if that's where you were looking, Ed. You know, we typically for the refuge report the number of samples we're able to collect each month. So if you look at February of 25, you've already got one station that the water levels were too low to even be collected. And obviously, when you look at this table here on slide 3, you can see that the water levels continue to decline, and the number of collections that were able to be done at those 14 stations also declined. And actually, May, you know, they were only able to get 4 of the 14 stations. So that's another indicator that we've got these declining water levels in the refuge.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Jody, one more point. You mentioned that you were looking at, or we're looking at inflows, but all of these are marsh stations, right? So we don't actually have the flow structure concentrations represented here.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Jody or Chelsea? And I see a physical hand in the back of the room. Nenad, I don't know if you have a microphone back there.
Reckoning. Oh, I got to turn on the button. Jeez. Can you hear me? Yeah. LOX 104 and LOX 135 are canal stations, and they're close to the discharge points from the SDAs. So they represent concentrations you typically see in the canal.
Thanks for the clarification, but they are not the direct representation of the flows. So we will cover that during our investigation, yes.
Yes, and another thing when we're talking about no data, you'll notice that the transects for February, as we go into the interior, there's no data available for the western transect due to either dry out or water levels being below 10 centimeters.
Thanks, Nina.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Looks like we have some homework ahead of us. All right, anything else on this particular presentation for today? All right, great. Thanks, Chelsea. Let's move on to your next presentation, which is the final Shark River Slough Federal Water Year 24 annual compliance results. So we would have presented preliminary data at a prior meeting, but the data has all been finalized now, and this is the result.
Okay, this presentation covers the final water year 2024 Shark River Slough compliance results. So we actually go back to another quarter. So this water year covers October 2023 to September 2024. Yeah, we've presented the preliminary results in the last meeting. Then we received the final results from USGS for the S12s. Now these results are finalized. So actually the numbers are same. And you can see that the water year 2024 flowing mean TP concentration is 8 parts per billion, exceeded the limit 7.6 parts per billion, and the total flow is about 1.5 million acre feet. Also for the percent of sampling events greater than 10 parts per billion, the observed data was less than the guideline, 14.1%. And this slide we've presented before, and you can see that in the recent 4 years after COP operation was implemented, then the long-term limit shown in this solid red line has been fixed at 7.6 parts per billion. And now we add the water year 2024. We've talked about this slide before. It's similar. This shows these past 3 years daily flow discharged into Shark River Slough. And we can see that the annual El Nino rainfall impact and increased flow in the dry season. And you see a lot more flow here. Also the S356 pump allow more flow in the dry season and associated with the El Nino event. And this slide shows the daily flow distributed to S12A, B, C, D, flowing into Western Shark River Slough. And because the high stage in WCA 3A and the El Nino rainfall also contribute to the high stage in WCA 3A. So S12AB was operated under the deviation from COP operation plan. So you can see them still flowing till April 1st. This slide shows the discharge into the Northeast Shark River Slough through S33 and S33N. This slide shows similar information. This slide shows the underlying data used to calculate the 12-month. Actually, here is the annual water year 2024 flowing mean TP concentration. So we use the 12-month biweekly flow shown in these blue bars, and the TP concentrations shown in these cyan dots to calculate the water year 2024 flowing mean TP concentration. And you can see the TP concentrations was typically below 10 parts per billion through the water year, except these dry periods. I'll talk more in the exceedance analysis. Then this last blue diamond represented the water year 2024 flowing TP concentration, 8 parts per billion, using the data on the previous slides I talked about. And this slide shows the WCA3 stage, Shark River Slough inflow and TP concentrations in the previous 3 years. So for water year 2024, these are finalized data. Again, you see the TP concentration were below 10 parts per billion for about 10 months. Only in the 2 months when stage was lower, it was above 10 parts per billion. And here, the red line represented the WCA3A stage, represented the S33 headwater stage, this red line. And you can see that stayed above 9.2 feet for 10 months. And this dry season high stage is related to the El Nino rainfall. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chelsea. I know you have another presentation, but I did want to ask the reps if they have any questions or comments at this time. We also have a asterisk on the agenda for this item, but I'm not sure we want to invoke a vote at the moment. That would be a question I have for you after the next item. Any? Okay, I don't see any hands raised or any questions at the moment. So Chelsea, if you don't mind, if you could please do your next presentation. It's covering what we've looked at, what you have discovered as far as water quality conditions for Shark River Slough. So please go ahead with your next briefing.
Thank you, Julie. This presentation covers the Shark River Slough exceedance analysis for water year 2024. So we examine the water quality conditions. Just reiterate, this is the compliance results we're talking about. Flowing mean TP concentration, 8 parts per billion, exceeded the 7.6 parts per billion for water year 2024. So when evaluating exceedances, we examine 2 conditions. Was the exceedance due to data errors or extraordinary natural phenomena? We also examine other conditions to understand what happened throughout the water year. So when dealing with the data errors, we check whether there's missing or suspicious flow data, or whether there's missing and qualified water quality data. So if any of these issues happened and it changed the compliance results, we would deem the exceedance was caused by data error. So for water year 2024, we didn't find any missing data or suspicious data in the flow, but we find one qualified event on December 3rd in the water quality data. Then we conduct sensitivity analysis, and the results indicated no effect on compliance. And this slide shows the sensitivity analysis results. You can see all of these, this one sampling event on December 5th was qualified because the analyte was detected above the method detection limit. So now, for this, we performed a sensitivity test using samples collected before and after that week as substitute samples to calculate the flowing TP concentrations, and the numbers changed slightly. You can see that, but still exceeded the 7.6 long-term level, or long-term limit. So therefore, the exceedance was not attributed to data error because it didn't change the compliance results. Then was the exceedance due to extraordinary natural phenomena? We checked the WCA3 rainfall. So on this figure, each bar represents the total rainfall in each month, and these blue box at the top means rainfall above the average. We use 30-year average rainfall as a reference. So blue box means above average rainfall, red box means below average rainfall. So water year 2024 rainfall was 60.5 inches, making it an extremely wet year. And most notably, the dry season rainfall was higher than the 30-year average due to the El Nino event. And also we saw June, the rainfall spiked. That's about above 17 inches. However, there's no other abnormal conditions, so the exceedance was not attributed to extraordinary natural phenomena. And this slide shows the system operations. And this gray shaded area shows when the stage was below 9.2 feet of S33 headwater. Here, this red line represents S33 headwater. And so when the stage is S33 headwater was below 9.2 feet, they're shown in this gray shaded area. And you can see that the stage was high in the dry season due to El Nino rainfall. And with the stage this high, the TP concentration was below 10 parts per billion for 7 months before the stage reduced below 9.2 feet. So this year you can see that we have 7 months of below 10 parts per billion concentration TP good water quality. This is much longer than the other years. You can see that usually these 5 years from October to the dry season. Then after the June heavy rainfall raised the stage quickly, then the TP concentration, high TP concentration in the dry season reduced quickly to 10 parts per billion. So totally we have near 10 months of TP concentration below 10 parts per billion. So again, we don't see any abnormal conditions, so therefore the exceedance is not attributed to extraordinary natural phenomena. What we observed is the persistence of localized phenomena. So the next few slides will focus on TP stage relationship, flow during low stages, and the long-term trend of flow, long-term limit and flow in TP concentrations. So on this slide, I want to highlight the TP stage relationship. Here, this red line represents S33 headwater with this red dashed line marking 9.2 feet. So when the headwater was below 9.2 feet, these are called low stage period, are shown in these shaded area, gray shaded areas. So in these gray shaded areas, high TP concentrations shown in these yellow dots are highly correlated with this low stage. And this pattern repeats every year. You can see that every year recurs. And what's most important is the flow during this gray periods, gray shaded periods, the low stage period. So flow is represented in this purple shaded area. So this flow during low stage is critical to compliance results. So for example, in water year 2020, you can see the flow during low stage was minimum, very low. And you see gaps over here and small flow at the end. And water year 2020 was in compliance. All other years, you can see had much higher flow in the low stage period, and all of these years had exceedance. So now this slide will focus on this flow during low stages. At the top, these pink shaded years are ranked in descending order, with the net Shark River slough inflows at or below 9.2 feet in the long-term limit period, so from 2007 to 2024. And all of these years had an exceedance except for 2016. So what makes 2016 different? The figure to the left provides an explanation. So the key point is the same flow under different stage do not have the equal impact on compliance results, and it depends on the stage. So here, this figure, the x-axis represents as three stages. So as you go down, the stage gets lower. The x-axis represents the cumulative flow at certain stages. So now you are not just looking at 9.2 feet. You can look at any stage, the cumulative flow. So here at the top of this each water year, this ending point represents the total flow at or near 9.2 feet. This corresponds to the last column in the table, and also corresponding to what I mentioned, that these top pink years, how they are ranked. So here is the flow stage. If it's lower, the risk to exceedance is higher. So if you look at these 4 COP implementation years, so 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, and you see these lines all go below 7.6 feet. So there's discharge below exceeds feet, and which means much higher risk for exceedance. So if you see, look at this pink shaded area, all these years had flow either higher at or below 9.2 feet or has a flow discharge at much lower stage, except for 2016. So here, 2016, even the flow at below 9.2 feet was higher than 2014 and 2024, but these discharges happen at much higher stage. It started above 8.7 feet. So this green line, the left tip is 8.7 feet, and which actually helped 2016 to avoid exceedance. Also, Donato mentioned 2018. So 2018, if you look at, the long-term limit was 7.6 parts per billion, the minimum, same as our current long-term limits. But 2018 was in compliance. Why? If you look at here, the flow, 2018, the flow was minimum. Here it shows is at or below 9.2 feet, it was only 2,000 acre feet, which was the lowest in the last decade. So just this parameter, flow under low stage, explains all the exceedance in the past decade, except 2017, which was identified as due to extraordinary natural phenomena. So we know COP operation increase flow and how it affect the compliances. So we want, this figure will focus on the 12-month tracking, long-term limit, and flow mean TP concentrations. So here, this red line represents the long-term limit, the tracking 12-month long-term limit. And this blue line represented the 12-month flow mean TP concentrations. Then COP was implemented since in September 2020. Then after a few months, the time mutual flow formula associated with COP operation kicked in March 2021 because it has weight when the WCA3 stage fell in zone B. And you can see that since time mutual flow formula implemented, and these two lines, the pattern changed. So in the early years, you can see these two lines were closely together. They deviated sometime, but less than 12 months, it will come back close again. But since the time mutual flow formula started, and these two lines are separate, stay separated, with the flow in TP concentration stayed above the long-term limit. So what caused this change? So first, look at this flat red line, near flat red line. So COP operation increased the 12-month flow. So based on the appendix equation, so high flow resulted in low long-term limit. That's why you see here now it's at the minimum, 7.6 parts per billion. So we get lower long-term limit. And at the same time, the flow in TP concentration shown in this blue line went up because the time mutual flow formula increased flow during low stages. And more flow and low stages coupled with except high TP concentrations, so resulting in increase to the 12-month flow mean concentration. That's why you see this blue line now is higher. So when we compare these two, so lower long-term limit, higher flow mean TP concentration means exceedance. Now we want to look at the long-term trend using the 5-year data. So this way we can avoid the smooth out the year-to-year rainfall variation and can have a clear, big picture. So on this slide, on the lower right, on this figure, these bars represent the exceedance, the flow with mean minus long-term limit. And these green bars means in compliance, and these red bars means exceedance. So this solid line changing from green to red represents the 5-year average of exceedance. So here you can see that before 2019, before 2020 actually, till 2019, this line stayed in the good side, in compliance. So after 2019, and this line shift to red because the consistent exceedance. Then what caused this change? And let's look at the top left figure here. This red line represents the Shark River through total inflow. And this blue line represents the flow during low stage. So both flows are increasing, especially for flow during low stage since 2018. Now the bottom left figure, this corresponds to the top figure. So let's look at how these flow increase affect long-term limit and flow with mean TP concentration. So while the total flow was increasing and the long-term limit was decreasing, this is based on appendice equation. And also the flow increased during low stage. Due to this increase during low stage, and now you see that flow in mean TP concentration changes from a decreasing trend to an increasing trend and caused the inflection point in 2018. So now with lower long-term limit and higher flow in mean TP concentration, these two trends, these have pushed the compliances in consistent exceedance. So for federal water year 2024, here, the 5-year average flow in mean now is 1 parts per billion higher than the long-term limit. So if you go back 2018, back then, the flow in mean was 0.5 parts per billion lower than the long-term limit. Now it's 1 parts per billion higher. So under the operation, this is the system we're dealing today. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chelsea. I'm assuming, but do not know, we may have some questions and comments. Anyone?
Yes. Hey, Chelsea. Thank you. Good presentations. Can you go back to your last presentation in slide 10? You were mentioning 2016. I'm not sure. I wasn't following. What was the point you were making about the 2016 event?
This one?
Yeah, you were pointing out something about 2016. 2016. What was the argument you were making about 2016?
2016?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously you can see 2016 flow at or below 9.2 feet was high. It's ranked at how many? 5th highest. However, 2016 was in compliance. You can see the flow in mean was 7.2 parts per billion. Even the limit was 7.6 parts per billion. Why? If you look at it here, this shows the discharging stage of these flow. The 2016 flow again at or below 9 point was higher than 2014 and 2024, but the discharging stage was much higher. So if you look at all the discharging stage, it's all above 8.7 feet. So you see here where this line ends, that's 8.7 feet. That's why if the discharging stage is higher, the same flow, I would say it's less riskier. But if look at 2014, 2024, there's a discharging even under 7.6 feet. These discharging stages were much lower. That's why these the same flow does not have the same impact to compliance. So lower stage, the flow at lower stage has a higher impact to the compliance.
Okay, so 2016 caught my attention because I'm not sure, because I'm not looking at the data right now, but this is pre-COP, so we were still delivering water around Northeast Shark River Slough using the 334, so I'm not sure how much that plays into the interpretation of the 2016. So I think we might want to check that out in a little more detail before we make the assumption that it was good because we were just above 8.7. So I'm just not fully certain that because, again, I'm not looking at the data right now. So I can go back and look at that and we could talk about it a little more later. I appreciate this presentation, though. Thank you.
Oh, these are net Shark River Slough inflow, so excluding.
So this had the
S334
334 is removed already?
Yeah, excluding. That's how we calculate the annual or 12-month flow in mean TP concentration. So that's why you see here, I call net Shark River Slough inflows.
Right, so that is the point that I'm making. So some of this water was diverted around Northeast Shark River Slough for the year. And so could that have contributed us to being in compliance instead of just being above the 8.7? That's all I'm asking, and maybe a little more investigation into that before we make that cemented as an interpretation. Over.
Okay. Ed, I see you have unmuted. Did you have a question or comment?
No, I was just listening and I was prepared to speak, but I think Donato answered my question. Thanks, Donato.
Okay, great. Thank you. Dan Crawford.
Thank you, Julie. Chelsea, really great presentation. As always, appreciate your thoroughness. And I guess I would just like to make sure that the Corps of Engineers goes on record that the primary purpose of the COP that was implemented in 2020 was to restore natural hydrologic condition in Everglades National Park, specifically Northeast Shark River Slough. And part of restoring those natural hydrologic flows to Northeast Shark River Slough is having continuous flows through the dry season. Acknowledge that we have local effects upstream of 333 that have contributed to the elevated nutrient concentrations when stages drop below 9.2. But just acknowledging that the aims to deliver continuous flow in the dry season to Northeast Shark River Slough is ecologically beneficial, intentional, and was developed through a very extensive external coordination process with all agencies involved in Everglades restoration, including all the agencies sitting around the table at the Technical Oversight Committee. Over.
Thank you, Dan. Other comments and questions at this point? Discussion? And you still have your hand up. Okay. We do have an asterisk next to this agenda item, so I guess I'm going to ask you guys, did we want to try to take a look at voting on this particular item today? Or was there additional information you guys wanted to look at between now and the next meeting?
Julie, this is Donato. I have done a lot of investigation on this exceedance as well, and most of my evaluations are coming out in alignment with what Chelsea has presented today. I did look a little bit at the concept of the deviation that occurred through water year 2024. And I tried to play with some of the numbers with respect to shifting the flows that we saw at the S12A and B during periods that we normally would not see flows at those structures. And I moved that around just to do a sensitivity analysis, and it did not make a difference in achieving compliance. So that kind of calmed me down about the deviation. So I'm ready to vote on this topic of, unless somebody else has any objections to voting now. Over.
Okay, first of all, any objections to voting? And secondly, if we are going to vote, I would also open it to those of you that are quote-unquote attendees on Zoom. If you have any public comments before we do vote. I'm not seeing any objections to voting. Ed, you've unmuted maybe again or still.
Yeah, just Julie, this is Ed Smith, DEP. Hey, Donato, I was having a hard time following you. What were you referring to as the deviations?
So Chelsea pointed out that there was a COP deviation during water year 2024. And in her slides with the flow for the S12A, B, C, D, and 333, she identified the period where we were seeing flows that would occur during periods that the structure historically would have been closed. And so that is the period where we had the deviation that allowed the S12As and Bs to be open. And so my sensitivity analysis just looked at shifting those flows from the S12A and B to the S12C or D and a combination of, and I just didn't find any change that was enough to improve or modify our interpretation of compliance.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. That's fair. Just wasn't tracking it.
Okay, I'm going to kind of go over some voting procedures, but in the meantime, do we have any members of the public that wish to comment specifically on our evaluation of this Shark River Slough exceedance? Please raise your hand so I can see that you've raised your hand. I can see who you are. Okay, I don't see any hands raised, so let me go through the illustrious, maybe we're going to call it the 26th memo that we got from the principals, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And this memo is posted on the webpage, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, but back in 2016, TOC did see some pretty concise direction on what we should be looking at and how we might evaluate compliance with the consent decree, and then what we do to look at remedies and so forth. So I'm not going to read through every paragraph on this memo, but I do want to kind of mention that within the consent decree itself, there's a lot of information and requirements in appendices A, B, and C. We love page C-4 around here. That's a pretty important one. But I will read this. And again, this is from the principals back in 2016. So there's a couple of, there's different TOC reps right now, and there are also a few different principles to the consent decree, but this has not been rescinded. So again, as principals, we suggest there are at least 3 questions that the TOC should consider in response to an exceedance. First, has the TOC sufficiently evaluated the relevant information for a better understanding of what might have caused the exceedance? And we're going to kind of do a vote on each one of these, you guys, but I'll go through them to start with. The second one, has the TOC determined that there is substantial evidence that the exceedance is due to error or extraordinary natural phenomenon? The third, if there's no substantial evidence that the exceedance was due to error or extraordinary natural phenomenon, has the TOC applied Appendix C to consider what additional remedies may need to be taken? And that's where page C-4 comes into play. All right, so if we could, again, I still don't see any public comments. If we could ask the reps to vote on each of these 3 questions. It would be based on Chelsea's presentation. She kind of went through all that information. Also, I believe all of today's presentations actually went out to the representatives ahead of time, so you guys hopefully would have had a chance to also look at some things, and Donato certainly did, as he described. So first question is, have we sufficiently evaluated the information for a better understanding of what might have caused the exceedance? So this is a yes/no from each of you, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Donato, yes.
Okay,
Melissa, yes.
thank you. Ed?
Yes.
And Dan, you're
Yes, on behalf of the Corps of Engineers.
great, and yes from the district as well, so thank you. The next question is, have we, the TOC, determined there's substantial evidence that the exceedance is due to error or extraordinary natural phenomena? And Chelsea showed an investigation of the data and indicated that on our part, we felt there wasn't any data error, and also the same for extraordinary natural phenomenon. If we could go around the room again real quick.
I support Chelsea's finding. Again, this is Donato, Everglades National Park. So no error or extraordinary natural phenomenon.
Thank you. Melissa?
I also support Chelsea's findings. This is Melissa with Arthur R. Marshall National Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge.
Thank you. Ed?
This is Ed Smith, DEP. We concur with Chelsea's findings that there was no data error or extraordinary natural phenomena that could be related to the exceedance.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
This is Dan Crawford. On behalf of the Corps, we also concur with Chelsea's findings that the exceedance was not the result of error or extraordinary natural phenomena for water year 24.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone has a motion regarding additional remedies. I could certainly give one if someone else doesn't have one. Sorry. Did anyone want to make a motion about making recommendations about additional remedies, or did you all want me to do that? All right, well, let me go ahead and make a motion then. Given all the activities and the conclusions and recommendations of the S333 working group, and we'll hear from Jody a little more soon, and the progress we're about to hear about, we don't recommend any additional remedies for federal water year 24 at this time. So that would be a motion. If I could get a second and concurrence from everyone, I'd appreciate that.
This is Donato again. I second that motion for no additional remedies.
Thank you.
This is Melissa. I also concur. No additional remedies.
Thank you. Ed?
Concur, no additional remedies needed at this time.
Thank you. And Dan?
Dan Crawford, on behalf of the Corps, concur as well that no additional remedies above and beyond what is already being pursued from the S33 working group. Over.
Thank you all so much. So the Technical Oversight Committee hasn't concluded that we do have an exceedance, but that we don't have any additional remedies to recommend at this time. And I really appreciate everyone's helping us evaluate everything as we go along. Let's see. I guess we can now go to our next agenda item, which Jody Hutchins will give us an update on the S333 working group, and I know we're all anxious to hear where we are on this project.
Hello again, everybody. So today I'm going to be providing an update on the activities as recommended by the S333 working group. Just a reminder, the working group consists of the agencies shown on this slide: the South Florida Water Management District, Everglades National Park, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, and the Arthur R. Marshall Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge. So just a reminder of the recommendations by the working group and which was then authorized by the principals under the consent decree are shown by this slide. They're broken down in 3 separate tasks. Task 1 includes the maintenance dredging 1,500 feet upstream of the S333 complex and both the L67A canal and L29 canal directions, as well as the installation of 2 short height low sill weirs that will be located at the terminus of the dredged area in both canal locations. Under task 2, we will be following up with additional low sill weirs. We will include 3 internal weirs, as well as raising the height of the weirs that were installed at the dredging terminus to their final weir heights. And then task 3 will be the implementation of a monitoring and assessment plan, which will commence once task 1 is completed. So this slide provides an update as far as the schedule. I have on this slide 2 different schedules shown. We have the schedule that was presented at the December 2024 TOC meeting, which is shown in the orange, and the blue shows the schedule changes as we are today. So for going through each of these tasks, I'm going to start with task 1. For task 1, we are complete as far as the preliminary survey, the geotechnical investigations and final survey, and the final project design and specifications. So there's no change according to the schedule as what was presented back in December of 2024. The final permits, this is where you can see a shift in the schedule. We have received our we haven't received our DEP permit, as well as the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Section 408 authorization. We're currently waiting on the Army Corps of Engineers Section 404 permit. What has been communicated to us is that the permit has been drafted and it is with the Army Corps of Engineers management to issue the permit. Approvals that were needed included the Section 106 tribal concurrence, the Section 7 U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service concurrence, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers Section 408 approval. So all of those have been received. So it's just a matter of the Corps issuing us the permits, and that is expected this month. So you can see the final permit, the schedule has been shown to shift out until June 2025 is when we expect to have all of our permits in hand, and we can move forward with the solicitation. So as a result of obtaining all of these permits by the end of June, we are trying to be as expeditious as possible. So we were given approval, the district was given approval by our leadership to move forward with the solicitation while waiting on our final permit. So currently, the district's Engineering and Construction Bureau has completed the bid package, and it is currently with our procurement office. And in the process, the solicitation is in the process of going out. So we will expect that to be on the street any day now. So the schedule shows that the solicitation will occur during the months of July and August. The solicitation period is around 30 days. So, there is the opportunity for this solicitation period to be shortened. So I will mention that. Once the solicitation period is completed, we will move into contract execution. The schedule shows that activity to occur in the September-October timeframe. And we have the start of construction expected to occur in December of 2025. Just for planning purposes, you will notice a gap month there. We thought best for planning purposes to show that activity beginning in December, just to allow for any flood control operations or weather situations that we may encounter. But that's not to say that, if given the opportunity, we would definitely begin construction sooner. So moving into task 2, this is the installation of the full height low sill weirs. So no change from what was shown in December as far as the modeling is concerned. We are complete with the modeling. We're just working on getting everything that was done formally documented to support the permitting that will be required for task 2. We are working on the final project design and specifications and getting ready to gear up to submit our permits that's needed for task 2. You will notice that we shifted the schedule for the permitting to begin once we receive all of the final permits for task 1. And that is because we plan on applying for a modification to our section 404 once it is received. And, we will do that once we receive our permit. We will then come back and then apply to modify that permit. So that activity will begin once we receive the final permit, and the duration of that activity is the same. We're anticipating about a 5-month period to obtain all of the permits necessary for task 2. We similarly pushed out the project design and specification to align with the receiving all of our final permits, and that is just because with the final permits is when we also submit our engineering design and specifications package, and often we get some feedback and comments from the respective agencies that would warrant possible changes to the project design. So we wanted to fully account for that process. So the final permits and the project design are shown to both be complete at the same time. We're planning for that to occur around the November 2025 timeframe. Moving into the solicitation and contract execution for task 2, because of the situation that we're in where, if you can recall, when we first presented the schedule for these working group activities, there was more of a separation between task 1 and task 2. And that was just because, we knew that we were able to start on task 1 a lot sooner, given the permit exemptions and things like that we initially were going for. But given the changes with the project and the need to redesign based on the increased and sediments and the amount of material that were needed to be dredged, basically now we're in the situation where we have more of an overlap in the schedule with task 1 and task 2. So we decided that we're going to include the solicitation and contract execution that was planned for task 2 with task 1. And that's going to allow for us, some potential time savings and some optimization by utilizing the same contractor. So the solicitation that was approved and went to our procurement office for execution does indeed include task 1 and task 2. It's just going to be a matter of when we obtain those final permits for task 2. And when that does occur, we will give the contractor notice to proceed. And it'll just be a matter of logistics at that point. So, once they're complete as far as the dredging on one portion of the canal and they mobilize to the other part of the canal, they could then come in and begin their work on task 2. So it'll be more of a streamlined process. So for planning purposes, we didn't adjust the schedule as far as when the construction will start for task 2. We left it as we had it back in December of 2024, which was July 2026. The reason back in December was because we were going to begin construction for task 2 once the construction for task 1 was complete. But understanding now that we're utilizing the same contractor, that construction start date can very well shift to the left. It's just going to be a matter of when we get our permits in hand. And then moving on to task 3, the changes that we made here for the schedule is basically just to account for when construction is expected to be completed for task 1. Right now we're showing about a 11-month duration for construction. That is all contingent upon, weather and flood control operations. There is the possibility that can be shortened. But just to be as conservative as possible, we're giving ourselves the 11-month construction duration. So that puts us at October of 2026 for being complete. And then we would move in immediately following with the implementation of our monitoring and assessment plan. And that monitoring and assessment plan will be ongoing for a duration of 5 years. And we will do an assessment of our findings of that monitoring and assessment plan on an annual basis. So that is all I have as far as the schedule, and that concludes my update today on the S333 working group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jody. Does anyone have comments or questions for Jody? Okay.
This is John Barquette. Just a couple of observations. Number one, it does look like your overall schedule may not be impacted that much by the permitting delays that you described, which is good news. And I really appreciate, by the way, the format of the presentation and your explanations as to why the blue lines have extended out a little bit, and also appreciate your recognition of the effort to figure out ways to get back to your original schedule if you can. So bravo for all of that. My only other comment is I can't comprehend why there would be permit delays if everyone appreciates that we're dealing with a violation of a federal consent decree and everybody should be rowing in the same direction to try to expedite approval of permits when for the most part, the agencies giving the permits are also TOC participants. So I'm sure you're emphasizing that in your application and your communications, but to the extent that you want to add greater emphasis, you can indicate that, at least from the perspective of the special master appointed by the court, I would hope that any agency involved in permitting will give your applications expedited treatment, just in respect of the fact that we're dealing with now repeated violations of the federal consent decree. So to the extent you can emphasize that, I would urge you to do that. I certainly don't want to involve the court in that kind of exercise to ask parties involved in permitting that are also TOC reps to make sure that that happens. So I assume you're doing that anyway, but I just wanted to add my observations for emphasis. But otherwise, I really appreciate the presentation. It looks like you're moving ahead great. And I will repeat, it may be that even the permit delays may not matter at the end of the day. Looking at your schedule for task 1 and task 2, your task 2 schedule still looks like it's on track, and you've indicated you may well, with using the same contractor, may well be able to move that schedule up. So I don't want to get too concerned given the end dates, but I don't want the permitting issues to cause you to report in September that these blue lines have been extended further.
Thank you, Mr. Barquette. We appreciate that greatly. Thank you. Ed, you have unmuted. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. This is Ed Smith, DEP. Just wanted to thank Jody for the update. That was a very good update. Appreciate it. And then also wanted to communicate to the TOC members, just so you know, that thanks to the work of Deputy Secretary Adam Blaylock and our new division director for our Division of Environmental Assessment and Restoration, Lawrence Glenn, the department has secured 100% of the funding to cover Task 1 and Task 2. We will be submitting a contract agreement to South Florida. Actually, it was submitted this morning to South Florida Water Management District to get those funds locked down. So we will have 100% of the funding covered for Task 1 and Task 2 within the next 2 weeks secured.
Thank you so much. That's really great news. We appreciate that. Thank you, Ed. Okay, do we have any other comments on Jody's presentation? And then generally from the reps, any general comments, and then we'll look for general public comments in a moment. I'm seeing heads shaking, and I don't know, Ed or Dan, if you had additional comments. Ed first and then Dan. Oh, Dan. Okay, great. What do you have, Dan?
I just wanted to thank Jody for the efforts of leading the 323 working group. You know, what we see here is a culmination of all the work that she's doing by leading monthly meetings with all of these agencies to continue the forward progress, making sure we're reviewing all the modeling, make sure we're reviewing all the reports, and with the effort, as Mr. Barquette indicated, to expedite our permit review processes, and just acknowledge the Corps is working. Some of our other agencies on our regulatory permits do have statutory timelines as well. We are actively working even concurrently with this meeting to make sure we can expedite our permit processing for this action for Task 1, as well as to grease the skids for Task 2. Over.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, members of the public, we've got 20 or so of you that have Zoomed into the meeting. If you have a comment, could you please raise your hand so I could call on you? And then I don't believe we have any comments from attendees in the room. So I'm just going to give you a moment or two to press whatever star button you might need to press on your phone to see if we have any public comments. All right, I don't see any hands raised, so let's just recap a little bit of closing business here before we depart. I'm supposed to recap about action items. I do believe we have an action item for the next meeting to talk about the refuge, so we will all plan on that. And then if you all have other future agenda items, please let us know what those are. Violetta does usually ask you that ahead of time, but the earlier we know, the better. And the next quarterly meeting was set for September 16th. That is a Tuesday for the folks that requested we stick with Tuesdays. I know that conflicts with other things that are also going on with the agencies, but our next meeting is September 16th. And if we don't have anything else, we will close the meeting.
This is John Barquette. Can I just make one other observation? There isn't really anybody who can probably say this, perhaps except for me as an observer, but I do want to thank all the TOC reps for both your thoughtfulness and your diligence. It's always impressive to me in these meetings how you come prepared and how thoughtful you are in your presentation. So I wanted to say that just because I don't think you ever get to hear that from anybody else, certainly as a group. So I wanted to let you know that I am grateful for both your thoughtfulness and your diligence.
Thanks so much. We do appreciate that. Thanks a lot. Ed, I don't know if you, yes, Ed has a comment.
Hey, Julie, this is kind of outside of TOC, but I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that Dan Scheit with the US EPA, he retired earlier this month after 42 years of working on Everglades and Everglades related projects. And I just wanted to give him a big thank you publicly, because even though he wasn't a TOC member, he often contributed to the TOC discussions, was very helpful, and always a great source of knowledge. So just wanted to thanks to Dan Scheit. So, and welcome Chris Decker, who is going to be taking over for Dan Scheit. Looking forward to working with you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Ed. I think Dan kind of quasi tried to sneak out, but again, we appreciate Chris stepping up too, so thanks.
Hey, this is Chris Decker. Thanks, everybody. I do have big shoes to fill with Dan's 40 years of experience, but I'm excited to step into this role as EPA's Everglades senior scientist, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody. So yeah, you beat me to it, Ed. I couldn't find the opportunity to say something. So thanks for bringing it up.
Really great, and thanks for being here. Okay, I think that rounds it out for today. So I would like to officially close this quarterly TOC meeting, and we will look forward to some healthy discussion in September. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.